And the third E is evolve, and that's self-alignment. I can also say that these are self-discovery, self-love, and soul love. I talk a lot about the difference in self-love and soul love, but I also call them self-value and self-alignment because soul love to some people is just too far out there. But we are intended to live our lives the way we want to. We get to choose who we are. We get to choose what we do. We get to choose the power that we have and the people that we impact. And
What if the most challenging moment of your life wasn't the end of the story, but the beginning of something more significant? Our guest Amy Thurman's life changed in an instant after a devastating fall. For 6 months, she unknowingly lived with a broken neck, a brain injury, and trauma that left her unable to care for herself. She spent a year trapped in pain, feeling hopeless and questioning if life was even worth living. But instead of letting her define that, Amy chose to rebuild. Hello, everybody. I am super excited to introduce you to my friend and our next guest, Amy Thurman. So, Amy, welcome to the show.
thank you so much. I'm so honored to be here. I'm excited to have a little bit of a chat with you today.
Oh, we have lots of awesome questions. So, you ignited your spark in 2014. Can you take us back to that time when everything changed for you? What led you to choose to rebuild instead of giving up?
Mm, that's such a great question, and it's very deep and emotional. I was working at a major university in 2014 one day, and the very next day, I couldn't even take myself to the restroom. And I literally almost died. I had multiple doctors tell me it was a miracle that I survived, but I passed out and landed on my face on the hardwood floor. And the impact from that sheared my brainstem, caused a traumatic brain injury, and it actually broke my neck, but that went undetected for 6 months. So for the first year after the accident, I had to lay flat in bed for 23 hours a day. Couldn't walk, talk, hear, or see correctly. I had to wear a cover over my eyes and earplugs in my ears. So I went from doing everything for everyone. I found my sense of self-worth and how much I could do to literally the very next day, I could do absolutely nothing. So my sense of self-worth was completely removed. I feel like I lost myself. And I came so close to swallowing a handful of pills, I did almost give up and just quit. But I decided instead to fight to live so that I could use my story to help other people. And it was a moment that my heart said to me, what if you don't have to die? What if you can make a different choice? What if you can use the same energy you're using trying to die and turn it around to fight to live? Maybe you can use your experience to help other people. And that's what sparked it right there was my heart saying, you have a choice. You don't have to die. You don't have to swallow that handful of pills. You can make a different choice and you can actually help many more people by choosing to live and to use your story in a way that helps other people. And so that's what it was right there. It just sparked something in me that this is not what I had planned for my life, but you know what? Maybe I could still have worth and have value just in a different way. And that's what it's become.
And I think that's such an empowering story for so many, because many of us, no matter what our age, and as we're talking to our midlifers here on the podcast, we have also much younger and much older people that listen to the show. Anything can happen at any time, just like your story highlights. And feeling and knowing that you have a choice is so empowering. And we met on LinkedIn when you still wore your neck brace. And that's how I got to know about your story. And I've been following you on LinkedIn, and we've been connecting, and we're meeting in different groups. But I found this such an empowering story to share with my audience that I just had to have you on the show. And
Thank you.
during this time, Amy, I mean, that sounds silly to ask that question, but how did you prioritize yourself?
It was difficult. Because I literally went from doing everything to completely nothing. I couldn't take myself to the restroom. My family had to do everything for me. And the way I prioritized myself was just thinking of things that I could do because there were so many things I could not do. I had to switch that. I had to reframe that and think about things I could do. What could I do? And the only thing I came up with was I could put earphones in my ears and have someone, because I couldn't, my eyes wouldn't work correctly. So I had someone load up podcasts and audiobooks, and I began listening to Dr. Wayne Dyer, Tony Robbins, Rumi, all kinds of luminaries, and just began pouring positive teaching and positive information in my brain so that I would not give up, so that I could keep going. And so the way that I chose myself was that I just reframed that negative thinking into something that worked for me. And that sounds simple, but it was a huge, huge impact. It had a huge impact on my life. And it is really what led to where I am and what I'm able to do today, that one simple choice.
And it brings such a powerful feeling that you chose, and it's a small step. And I always talk about baby steps. And I mean, in relation to your story, baby steps, again, sound almost silly, but it is exactly that. You found that spark. You said, okay, I can look at it this way or that way. And that you knew that the road ahead was hard, difficult, and not just, oh, I made this choice and now things are great. What support was your family and friends during that time?
They were a huge support. My husband had a full-time job. My youngest was 4 years old at the time. And so I completely missed that entire year of my children's lives. My daughter was a senior in high school. My older son was a freshman in high school. So those were very pivotal moments in all three of their lives, and they needed a lot of help, but especially the 4-year-old. And so my husband was busy with his job, taking care of me, taking care of the 4-year-old, and but it was very, very supportive. My extended family, I have two very close friends who just came to the rescue during that time
Yes.
and helped take the my little guy to school. And I had been I have always been a very determined, independent person. I still am. I wanted to do everything myself. When you are stripped of everything and you can't do anything for yourself, you have to depend on other people. And if I didn't have to depend on them, I wouldn't have. So, in a way, I see it as a gift, that it taught me that it's okay to ask for help. It's okay to receive help. But it became such a gift to me to receive the help. And it taught me to now I ask for help when I need help, and I receive it much more freely than I did before.
You just posted something on LinkedIn about that, which I thought was fantastic because women have such a hard time asking for help. We always think we are the warriors. We can pull through, we can do it on our own, and we have the strength and we can't show any weaknesses. But the opposite is so true, just like you said. And when you talk about the polishing the mirror, Amy, as a framework of transformation, what does this process look like? And how can women in midlife, or any woman for that matter, use it to get unstuck?
Polishing the mirror it's something that I came up with while I was laying flat in that bed for 23 hours a day, listening to all of those teachings. And it was a poem by Rumi that really struck my heart that goes like this: Ye who seek God apart, that which you seek thou art. If you wish to seek the beloved's face, polish the mirror and gaze into that space. And that taught me that every answer I seek can be found within. I was looking outside myself. External validation was how I lived my life. Everybody I trusted, and I believed everybody else and what they had to say and how they saw me. And I didn't ever look inside myself to see what I thought or what I felt or how I wanted to live my life. And this poem by Rumi taught me that I need to switch that every answer I seek can be found within. And so Polish the Mirror is about going within. It's a three-step process. I call it the 3E framework. It's the first E is explore, that's self-discovery. We learn so much about other people and we don't even know enough about ourselves. We have to get to know ourselves. That's the self-discovery phase. The next one is expand, and that's self-value. We get our value from what other people tell us and from external validation, but we need to switch that. And everything, all of our value actually comes from not what we can do, but who we are. And the third E is evolve, and that's self alignment. I can also say that these are self-discovery, self-love, and soul love. I talk a lot about the difference in self-love and soul love, but I also call them self-value and self-alignment because soul love to some people is just too far out there. But we are intended to live our lives the way we want to. We get to choose who we are. We get to choose what we do. We get to choose the power that we have and the people that we impact. And we need to figure out what's inside of ourselves and the life that we want to live, what our passions are, not what someone has taught us or what labels we wear or hats we wear or any of that. It's all about what's inside of us. And when we can figure out who we are at our core and we align with that and we live in alignment with that and we run our business in alignment with that, the world explodes. Literally, that's what happened in my life. It literally exploded with all of these opportunities and all of these people just coming at me with so many things to offer me. I was just shocked. I literally I I'm speechless, you can tell, because it's just so wild. I would make a list of all these things that I wanted to accomplish, and I have now disregarded that list because everything that I am accomplishing because I am self-aligned is so much bigger than anything that was on that list. And so when we live in in accordance with our authentic self, in alignment with our authentic self, literally the world, you get to live the life of your dreams. And it just is such a wonderful, magical place. I just get so excited to share that with others, but that's the basis of Polish the Mirror.
Yeah, that's what we talk about here on Pursue Your Spark as well as, live authentic. Be willing to look within. Be willing to see the truth that you're seeking. And instead of what I call dimming your light, we are letting us shine bright. But it does take quite a bit of work to get to that point, to be willing to take that first step. And many women shy away from that and are afraid to take that very first step to say, okay, this is me, this is what I want. And when I think of one of your accomplishments that just recently popped up, you were in Times Square on the billboard. There was Amy with her book, which we'll also get to talk about. But I mean, I don't think you've in your wildest dreams you thought about that this would be happening. And
I did not.
I want all of our listeners to think what in their wildest dreams would they do. Now, what would be it may not happen, but you have to have that vision and that willingness to embrace something new, something different. Um, and it may be totally different from what you thought you started with. What do you think?
Absolutely. Yeah, I we put ourselves in boxes because that's what we're taught to do, you know. We need to toe the line, we need to do what other people say, and that's not the case. That's not how we end up living the life of our dreams and being able to live our purpose and our passions. That excuse me, seeing outside the box, allowing ourselves to see outside the box and trusting ourselves. That's a huge one that we as women, especially, struggle with. And I think men do too. But
Yeah.
as a woman, I know that personally, but I think men do struggle with that as well. But trusting ourselves is the key to this because none of the rest of this is going to be effective unless we start with trusting ourselves. And that means we start by making mistakes. Maybe we trust ourselves and it doesn't go the way we expect it to, but you know what? We learn something from that so that the next time we do it differently. But it's just a matter of, as you said, baby steps of just building up that trust of ourselves and in ourselves so that when a thought hits you, and this is what happens to me now, when a thought hits me that's like so crazy, I'm like, all right, let's try it, let's do it. And those end up being some of the best ones now because I've learned to trust myself and my inner voice and my authentic self and just go
Yeah.
with it and allow it to be what it is. And the people who are not meant to follow me, who are not meant to be in my circle, they fall away. And that's okay. I have to be okay with that and allow them to go on their own journeys.
Yep, I couldn't agree more. Amy, you also talk about the Mirror Collective. How does it help people step into their true potential or authenticity? What is it?
But the Mirror Collective is a just a group that I created. I, at the beginning of this year, said, you know what, I want to step even more into my authentic self. I have done a lot of internal work over the last 10 years a lot of internal work, but I want to do even more. And so I thought, I'm going to, and I said earlier, we know so much about other people, we don't know enough about ourselves. So I'm just going to create this program that I go through myself, and I'm going to call it something about a mirror reflection because, Polish the Mirror is my business. And so I created this program for myself to dig more deeply into self discovery. And then this crazy thought hit me, you know what? Other people might want to do this too, and they might need some accountability and they might need some guidance. So why don't I just open this up and allow other people to join me? And it's free, completely free because I created it for myself and I just thought I'll open it up and see who is interested. And 54 people are joining me on this. And it's just been, let's see, even it's 5 weeks. We're 5 weeks in, and 55 people have joined me on this, including myself, self discovery journey.
Yeah.
And I am already hearing, like, even within the first week, people were saying, this is changing my life. I never thought about things like this, and I never looked inside, and I never knew about this about myself. And it's just really, really empowering people to come to know who they are and what they want and what their values and their passions are, so they can embrace those and live from that place, make decisions from that place. Now we have this ability to choose. I get to choose this or choose that, but this is my perspective that I'm choosing from, because now I know my core values and now I know my authentic self, and it makes a huge, huge difference.
It is always, again, I keep saying the word empowerment, but that just oozes out of you, Amy. And for all the listeners, don't worry. All the things that we're talking about, the Mirror Collective and Find the Hero and everything else, will be the links in the show notes. So you don't have to dig around and figure out where things are and how to find Amy. So this will all be in the show notes. Now, midlife is a big identity shift from empty nesting, career changes, and menopause, just to name a few. How did losing your physical ability impact your sense of self? And how did you redefine it after the fact? Because now you had surgery, your neck is fine, you have mobility back, and you have your life back.
And you said this earlier, but it's very true that we have this idea and this plan for our lives that these are the steps that we're going to take, and this is how we expect it to play out, and this is what I'm going to do, and this is what I'm going to achieve. The path that I was on before my accident, I was going to get my doctorate, and I was going to impart more knowledge on students, and do some more research and share more about what I was learning about schools and communities working together. But that didn't happen. The plan that I had was completely stripped. And I fought for a long time to get back to that. That's what I wanted to do, but that wasn't what I was meant to do. I was meant to be able to reach more people with a message that was given to me that I learned to create laying in that bed. And so I feel like it's so important that we are open to change, and that we see things from a perspective of, this may not be what I had planned, and this may not be the way I'm expecting it to go, but you know what? It could turn out to be even better than I anticipated. And that's what happened in my life. Was I had this plan and I was trying to get back to the person that I was, but I wasn't meant to be that person anymore. I was meant to step into an even greater version of myself. And I had to allow that to happen. And I think it's so important for people watching and listening that you're open to allowing that to happen and not resisting it. It's that resistance that causes you to feel and to remain stuck. And if we can release that resistance and choose to allow things to be what they are and see them from a different perspective, it can literally be life changing for you in a way that you have never, ever even dreamed.
What role does self doubt play in all of this, Amy?
We all doubt ourselves. That is
Don't
something,
we?
a part of being human. People look at me, they message me, and they really hold me on this pedestal. And I try really, really hard to prove to people that I don't need to be on a pedestal, that I am just as human as everyone else. I try to be very authentic in what I share on social media to let people know that I'm just as human as anyone else. And that means that I have self doubt too. And when I have self doubt, one of the things that I do, I keep track of, I make notes, I journal, I'm a avid journaler. And so I just write all the things down about every time I speak and the people who come up to me and share their stories. I'm writing those in my journal. So when I begin to doubt myself, first of all, I think of how far I have come. I literally was incapacitated and I couldn't lift my head off the bed, to now I'm speaking to thousands of people from stages and sharing my message and being on Times Square, all kinds of things like that. But I also go back to my journals and I look through those and I remind myself of the impact that I have and am having on other people. And so I think it's whatever works for you. That self-doubt is going to come up. Like we can't fight that. It's part of being human. So we allow it, we accept it, but we figure out a tool or a resource to help us when we do get to that point.
Yeah. In your book, Finding My Hero Within is about inner strength. What's one step, which ties in with what we just talked about, how women can take, what is one step that women can take to discover their inner hero?
I think just allowing yourself to be who you are, first of all, it's that self-discovery piece. We grow up and we're taught to behave a certain way, we're taught to believe a certain way, we're taught to do all of these things, and that's what we do as children. And then we take it into our adulthood, and that's who we become. But maybe that's not the person that you were meant to become. So I think it's the first step is the self-discovery. You've got to figure out who you are at your core. What do you really like aside from your labels and the roles and the hats that you wear? Just you. What do you really like? What are you passionate about? What do you want to do? And what brings you joy? When I do talks, I always talk about how the destination is not success. Our destination is joy. And when we seek joy, success is a byproduct of that. And so it's very important that we seek things out and make room for joy in our lives. Joy is not something that we earn or not something that we do when we have time. Joy is something that we schedule into our lives so that we can live the life that we want to live. It is what keeps us going. Joy is not a
Yeah.
reward, it is the fuel that helps us make it through day by day.
Absolutely. I think about in terms of fitness and it just comes to mind because I'm currently training for a aqua bike, which is a part of a triathlon, but you swim first and then you bike and you don't do the run. And I was just thinking when you mentioned that, it's like the the destination or the end is to get the medal and the t-shirt because you paid for it, get
Right.
the after race food.
Right.
But the joy throughout the training, as you can see, you're getting stronger and you feel better, you breathe better, all the niggles and pains go away over time. And then when you toe the starting line, you feel so ready and pumped because all along the way, you've had these moments of joy. And yes, there are some moments when you go, oh, my workout really stunk today. But it's the process as you keep going and you feel that joy, like I said, towing the line and saying, oh, I'm ready for this. I trained for this. I overcame the obstacles of not having shoes, forgetting my water, but here I am. Look at me now.
Exactly.
So,
In my brain, because I don't do that kind of thing, my body just doesn't allow me to at this point. When you were talking about that, I was thinking my joy would be when I cross the finish line of, okay, I've all of this that I have trained for, I've done it. I have accomplished this no matter what place I came in. I did it. And that would bring me
yeah.
great joy in that situation.
Absolutely. Yeah. The finish is the good thing too. Absolutely. And I always think because people are like, oh, look at how many medals you have. And I said, yeah, I paid for all of those, but I finished the race. In order
Yes.
to earn this joy, I had to do all the steps to get to that part. Um, and to wrap things up, I always ask my guests to share their top tips for pursuing their spark, which are strategic, purposeful, authentic, resilient, and knowledgeable. Based on your journey, what advice would you give to one of those? Maybe not all of those, but maybe strategic, purposeful, authentic, resilient, and knowledgeable.
Ooh, I could talk to about each one of those.
I know.
I have a nonprofit called Resilient Futures, and one of the things that I do, it helps schools and communities learn to work together, and so that students are better prepared for a resilient life beyond the classroom. But the example that I use when I talk about resilience, because my story includes a lot of resilience, is that I compare resilience to a rubber band. And that when you get a new rubber band and you stretch it, it only goes so far. But the more you stretch it, the further it goes every time you stretch it. But what happens when you stretch a rubber band too far? We've all done that, surely. It breaks and it snaps you, right? And that's painful.
Right.
And we don't like that. We don't want to be snapped by a rubber band. And so while we need that resilience to keep stretching and stretching in our lives to prevent us from breaking, prevent the rubber band and us from breaking, we have to have a toolbox. We have to have tools that we use that come in when we need them to prevent us from breaking. And so it's not all about us. It's about the tools that we use and the resources that we use and the community that we surround ourselves with. We were not meant to survive in isolation. We need a community around us. And while I teach that every answer you seek can be found within, we were meant to be in a community. And so I would say to stay curious, always be learning, and to trust yourself. Don't always look outside yourself for all the answers, but learn to trust yourself and what you have to offer and the gifts and talents that are just in there waiting to be shared with others. You'd never know the impact that you might have on someone else's lives just by simply being yourself, by being authentic to who you are.
What are you most excited about right now, Amy?
Oh my goodness. I have lots of opportunities coming up this year. And I think the one that excites me the most is I've been invited to speak at Cambridge University this fall. And I have never been out of the country. I've never needed a passport before. And so it's very exciting for me, not only that I get to make this trip, but I get to share my story and do a podcast interview and do all kinds of fun things while I'm over there. And I'm just really, really grateful for that opportunity.
I love it. Cambridge, I wasn't even thinking England. I was thinking Cambridge, United States. I'm like, of
Right?
course, England. Oh,
Yes.
now you have a passport.
Yes. Yes.
This
It's
is
very exciting.
exciting. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's been a pleasure following your story, Amy. You're such an inspiration to everybody. And I'm so glad we connected and that you came on the show and shared all your knowledge and inspiration and empowerment with our
Oh,
women in midlife.
well, thank you so, so much. It's been an honor and a pleasure to visit with you, Heike.